Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight film himself, once said that only Larry Bird belongs in the same conversation as Stephen Curry when it comes to the greatest shooter of all time. Not Ray Allen, not Reggie Miller, not Klay Thompson, just Larry Bird and Steph Curry. That's high praise, monumental praise, especially coming from a Hall of Famer who played against Bird at his peak. A guy who witnessed firsthand how dangerous Bird could be with the ball in his hands and the game on the line. But does his sentiment actually hold up? That's what we're going to break down today. Because is Larry Bird the only man who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Stephen Curry in the greatest shooter conversation? Or is this one of those takes that's more about respect for the past and less about actual numbers, impact, or shooting evolution?
Table is not yet clear. This is a three-pointer. Yes, it is.
Moncrief is trying, and Bird's three-pointer, and the Celtics get the lead.
Here's Curry for the record. It's good! There it is! Stephen Curry!
Let's start with Dominique's quote. The only other guy I've seen take shots like that, but his shots were all calculated, was Larry Bird. I would say they're right here together, but with Steph, it's the risks that he takes with some of the shots he takes and makes, and I'm not talking about 1 or 2 a game, you are looking at 8 or 9 of those shots he's made in that game. That's not just admiration, that's reverence. Dominique's drawing a line, a straight line, between Larry Bird and Stephen Curry. Not just as great players, not just as elite scorers, but specifically as shooters. And here's where things get fascinating. Because in an era that now lives and dies by the three-pointer, shooting has become the most important skill in the NBA. And yet, there's something different about Steph. We all know the accolades: 4-time NBA champion, 2-time MVP, including the only unanimous MVP in league history, all-time leader in three-pointers made, and by a wide margin. He owns the top 5 single-season three-point totals. That's right, the top 5. Steph didn't just break the records, he redefined them. Because before Steph, a shooter hitting 200 threes in a season was elite. Now, if you're not hitting that mark, you might not even be in the conversation. The man has hit over 4,000 three-pointers in his career, and he's not done, not even close. But it's not just the numbers, it's the way he does it. Steph doesn't just shoot threes, he weaponizes them. He launches from 30 feet like it's nothing, pulls up in transition, shoots off the dribble, off movement, over double teams, under pressure, with the shot clock running out, or right at the start of the possession. And he does it with rhythm, with audacity, with an ease that almost looks casual. That's the Steph Curry experience. Now let's talk about Larry Bird on the other side of the coin. Because while Steph changed the way the modern game is played, Larry Bird was one of the first players who showed just how dangerous the three-pointer could be. Back in Bird's day, the three-point line wasn't some primary weapon. It was more of a novelty, a gimmick. Teams rarely took more than a handful per game. And yet, Larry Bird still used it to devastating effect. He was a 3-time MVP, a 3-time NBA champion, and he hit over 650 threes in an era where teams didn't even try 10 a game. But here's what separates Bird from others of his generation. He had confidence in his outside shot before it was cool. You've probably heard the legend, the 3-point contest where Bird walked into the locker room and asked, "Which one of you is coming in second?" That wasn't just trash talk, that was declaration. He knew, everyone knew. Bird's jumper was pure, fluid, technical, and cold-blooded. So when Dominique Wilkins says that Larry Bird and Stephen Curry are right there together, you can understand why he feels that way. Dominique isn't just thinking about the stats or volume. He's thinking about the fear, the presence, the feeling you had when Bird squared up from deep, that sinking realization that if he pulled up, it was probably going in. Same feeling you get when Steph crosses half court. But here's where you have to draw the line. Because while the feeling might be similar, the reality is not. Let's talk about the numbers first. Larry Bird, for his career, attempted 1.9 threes per game. He made them at a 37.6% clip across his full career, with certain seasons hitting above 40%. Steph Curry, he attempts 9.2 threes per game at a 42.6% clip. Let me say that again, 9 threes per game hitting over 42%. That's elite volume and elite efficiency, the holy grail of shooting. Bird was efficient, no doubt, but he never faced the same volume, the same defensive pressure, or the same spatial demands that modern shooters face. And we don't know how Bird would have responded to that volume. It's not a guarantee that his percentage would have held, because the math changes. When you're taking 2 or 3 wide open set shots per game, it's easier to be efficient. When you're flying off screens, launching off the dribble, pulling up from 30 feet, and being guarded by the best athletes in the world, maintaining 40% is a whole different beast. Not to mention most elite shooters now are shooting at least 40% from downtown. Let's put it into simple terms. Curry has taken over 8,000 threes. Bird took just under 1,800. They're not in the same universe when it comes to volume. And in basketball, especially in shooting, volume matters. You can't be the greatest shooter if you didn't shoot a lot. You can be a great shooter, you can be a pioneer, you can be elite for your era, but to sit at the top of the mountain, you need volume, consistency, efficiency, and impact. Steph has all of those. Bird has some. That's not to discredit Bird, far from it. Larry Bird was special, not just as a shooter, but as a competitor, a passer, and a leader, and most people would have him above Steph Curry all time. He's one of the 10 greatest players of all time. But when you compare him to Steph Curry on shooting alone, you're not doing justice to the evolution of the game. Because Steph didn't just follow Bird's blueprint, he expanded it, he exploded it. He took what Bird started, the idea that the three-pointer could be a weapon, and turned it into an arsenal, a system, a religion. Just look around the league today. Kids aren't working on post moves anymore, they're practicing deep pull-ups from the logo. Centers, 7-footers, now work on corner threes just to stay relevant. Offenses are designed around spacing, pace, and shooting gravity, not big men, not mid-range jumpers, not isolation ball. Steph Curry made that happen. He changed the geometry of basketball. He bent defensive schemes to their will. He made every team in the league rethink how they play and how they build. You can't say that about any other shooter in history. Not Reggie, not Ray, not even Bird. And if that's not enough, let's just look at how undisputed this conversation has become. Because usually when we talk about GOATs, it's a debate. LeBron versus MJ, Kareem versus Wilt, Magic versus Steph versus Isaiah at point guard. But shooting, there is no debate. Ask any coach, player, analyst, or fan, who's the greatest shooter of all time? There's only one answer, Steph Curry. It might be the least controversial take in all of sports. He's the Michael Jordan of shooting, the Wayne Gretzky of the three-pointer, the Serena Williams of range. So when Dominique Wilkins says Bird and Curry are neck and neck, he's not wrong in spirit, he's honoring a peer, he's speaking from respect and experience, but in terms of the data, the impact, the change of the game, it's really not close. Bird walked so Curry could run, but Curry, well, he flew. Let's wrap it up with this. Larry Bird was ahead of his time, a pioneer, a cold-blooded shooter who made the league start taking outside shots seriously. He was efficient, clutch, unflinching, but Steph Curry, he redefined time. He turned the three-pointer from a tool into a philosophy. He broke records, systems, and minds with a smile on his face and a flick of the wrist. So yes, respect to Larry Bird, but make no mistake, Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in NBA history. Sorry to tell you, Dominique. If you agree with us, hit that like button. If you disagree, let's hear it in the comments. Who do you think belongs in the GOAT shooter combo with Steph? Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into NBA history, legends, and debates that shape the game we love. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.